In 2018, Tatsuki Fujimoto started writing the Japanese comic book series Chainsaw Man for Weekly Shonen Jump magazine. 4 years later, it received a 12-episode animated TV series adaptation from acclaimed studio MAPPA, known for the latter seasons of Attack on Titan and all of Jujutsu Kaisen, among many others. The franchise is one of the most successful and popular manga franchises of the current day, in stark contrast to what I usually cover. Following the show flopping domestically, shocking the rest of the world, where it was extremely successful, a sequel is announced as a theatrical film a year later, likely as a surefire way to be financially viable and appeal to manga readers and casual fans domestically, much as Studio Ufatable's Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba films and MAPPA's Jujutsu Kaisen Zero have been explosively successful around the world. As of this video's release, the latest Demon Slayer film is currently in theaters worldwide and is the most successful Japanese film of all time, and it'll only keep earning more money. Just as cynical and safe the decision to make a sequel film might be, films often have higher budgets and time to cook, which could fix many of the animation woes of the TV series. I watched the TV series as it aired and enjoyed it, but was mixed on it in places. As an anime only, it remained to be seen if the story would be better too. With 3 years behind me since I first watched the show, I rewatched the show to make sure I was prepared for the theatrical release of the film in the United States on October 24th, 2025, exactly 1 month after its domestic release. I really enjoyed it, and was more receptive to the main thematic character moments this time. While I didn't understand what Makima was doing, which is likely intentional, and I found much of the final arc to be boring and lacking emotional weight, I was excited to see the movie in theaters and see how this new chapter would be. Before I get into the review, I would like to establish the structure. Much of the review will be filled with spoilers. If you have not seen the movie yet, nor read the manga, there will be timestamps to avoid all detailed plot discussion. The first section is a spoiler-free summary, then a large section on the plot, and then finally a section on the presentation focusing on the music and animation, which is mostly spoiler-free. Feel free to use chapters and timestamps in the description to skip around. Now without further ado, let us raise the curtain on the Reze arc. Following off a lackluster arc in the show, the movie exploded in front of me like a bomb, of exquisite visuals and audio. I really enjoyed how it continued to develop Denji's character through an interpersonal story with a far smaller scope. In a sense, after his previous relationships with women, falling in love with a girl his own age was the natural next step, and one could argue the culmination. I don't think any other fight in the series had as much stakes as the main fight here because of how deeply Denji and Reze became involved with each other. It was a character drama in every sense of the word that used ample blood and nudity to convey the story of extremes. There may have been a few flaws, but it was overall phenomenal as a work of art and as an experience. One of the first things in the movie is Denji going on a date with Makima. I like this since it follows Makima's promise and maintains her grip over her pet dog. This is especially true since the way she reassured Denji that he has a human heart is by continuing the grooming. I also liked how the similarities between Denji and Makima are brought to focus by their emotional reactions to each movie they see being the same. Perhaps Makima too lacks a family, given her tears. I knew Reze's nature going into the movie, unfortunately, but I felt like the fact she was using Denji was really obvious, not only because that's what the story is about, but no girl would hide in a phone booth with a guy they didn't know, and then immediately strike up conversation the way she did. She was coming onto him from the very beginning. It was obvious to me since I'm not like Denji and don't see girls as well. Girls. But I think much like how seinen manga, like Kaguya-sama Love is War and Kubo Won't Let Me Be Invisible, build off the fact much of their target audience has already gone through those stupid high school butterflies for us to laugh at nostalgically, the contrast between the obvious nature of Reze's actions and Denji's enthusiastic embrace of them is intentional to draw attention to Reze. Some of the scenes with Reze after this have some eerie elements, such as the cutaways to a spider slowly dining on a butterfly. This is one instance from my reading of this series being a commentary on sexual abuse women experience through the lens of the opposite gender, having it being done to them, is seemingly proven. The spider was dining on a butterfly after all, an extremely common symbol of feminine beauty, not unlike Reze in Denji's eyes. It was fascinating how something so normal as typical teenage romance could have such a dark undertone given the previous experiences Denji had with being used and Reze's ultimate nature. As a massive fan of romance fiction, I found it particularly intriguing. During their nighttime rendezvous at a school is when some interesting ideas are brought up. Denji and Reze are only 16, and so it is natural they should be in school and not fighting devils. This is not super unique. Any work of war fiction worth their salt featuring child soldiers, such as of course Mobile Suit Gundam, will touch on this. but this is not something Chainsaw Man has previously brought up, and so I hope to see more of it in the future. During this time, the contrast between Denji's upbringing and his perception of his life and situation, and that of ordinary Japanese people, is a big focus. This is something that's very important, and I liked how it has been addressed in a sort of subtle way thus far. Now, since the stories focus on just Denji and another character, it's brought up more directly. With the knowledge from the end of the movie that Reze was an orphan victim of the Soviet Union's experiments, she probably had a similar tough upbringing to Denji. This is not only quite sad, but also really puts that classroom scene in a different light. She really was just using Denji the whole time, but at least it may have made him think about it all the same. On the note of the USSR, I'm curious to see if more Cold War elements will come up in the story, as Japan was against them too. Tangentially related to all this is the assertion that they're still kids doesn't make it any less normal in Japanese eyes to have her ass hanging out in battles. And Nomo's interest in her body. I don't mind the nudity in the film at all. It is intended to make teenage boys like Denji excited, and making them think is literally the point of the story. But adults shouldn't be lusting after someone who's considered a child in the narrative. It's a small issue, but I do think it undermines that assertion. I've seen worse where sexual content undermines characters, plot, and themes, however. The next couple of things I want to address are things separate from Denji and Reze, before wrapping up plot discussion with stuff about the end of their relationship. Aki and his buddy. I really liked every scene with Aki and the Angel Devil. It really read as someone who turned to Himeno in some ways. Himeno was absolutely disillusioned and broken after losing buddy after buddy, until Aki entered her life. She wanted nothing more than to continue to be with Aki. She wasn't the best person, filled with grays as do most people in this story, much like Aki. But the relationship she and Aki had was something really special. Himeno's passing really broke Aki, and was honestly difficult to watch. It felt like some stuff was skipped, but now Aki's new buddy is the Angel Devil. Aki is at first absolutely adverse to working and becoming friends with him. He hates devils, and the Angel Devil is seemingly against everything Aki believes in at a fundamental level. But over time, they grew at least a little closer, until at the end, the Angel Devil could have died, since he had nothing to grab onto without touching Aki in the face of the Typhoon Devil's winds. Despite the fact contact with the Angel Devil sucks your lifespan away from you, Aki grabs onto his arm as he flies away, asserting strongly that he does not want to die. He then hugs the Angel Devil from behind, saying he really did not want to lose someone again. I found myself tearing up here. I didn't even feel this sad when Himeno herself died, but I find Aki to be a very sad character, so it must have resonated with me. After this, the Angel Devil is seen giving a civilian a painless death, something he hated to do, but now does, having been touched by Aki, which I found to be quite moving. Denji and his buddy. The last set of side things I want to address is that of Denji's temporary buddy during the film, the absence of power, and then her grand re-entrance in the post-credits. Due to power being written out of the film, Denji was assigned a new buddy by the name of Beam the Shark Fiend. He was a fun new character and served his purpose. He demonstrated Denji's growth of character in that he can actually make friends with people and learn to trust them. It demonstrated that Denji is able to have relationships without them being one-sided and disadvantageous to him, or one of necessity where either side benefits for their own selfish reasons. Beam just legitimately really likes Denji, and by the end Denji came to really like Beam. In the face of everything that happened in the film, it is honestly quite heartwarming. I don't think Power was a good fit for this film, and writing her out was for the best. I do like Power as a character a lot, honestly, and I felt the post-credit scene was a fun and satisfying way of using her. And now finally, I want to address the ending. I personally think Denji is remarkably stupid for trying to give Reze another chance and wanting to run away with her after the battle. But I think this is good for his character. It demonstrates that he does have a human heart since he's able to forgive her. It may not be a smart decision, but it demonstrates that he wants to live a normal life, a girlfriend really badly, and that he has empathy in his heart. It also represents that he's being continuously strung along. But Makima taking charge to slay Reze, I think represents this more. Makima will control every aspect of her dog's life, even as the dog continues to learn valuable lessons with great difficulty. To end off, I want to address aspects aside from the plot, such as the music and animation. I really enjoyed the theme songs and insert songs. The Kenshi Yonezu opening theme song was a decent song with well-used visuals. The ending theme song featuring Hikaru Utada Famous for the theme music in the Kingdom Hearts video game series and the rebuild of Evangelion films, was a delightful surprise and a phenomenal song. The insert songs, however, have spoilers tied to them, so feel free to come back to this timestamp if you need to. The song sung by Reze was also quite interesting, and I really enjoyed that scene. I didn't expect it to be a hint at a Russian origin either. I think the song demonstrates that some part of her wanted to have a normal life, but not much of her direct motivations are shown in the movie. I really enjoyed the fight between Denji and Reze on the streets. The beginning where Denji lets his heart out to Reze is underscored by Haatari Myokusenshi by Maximum the Hormone, which was used as ending 3 in the TV series, and was a phenomenal use of the song. I'm a fan of Maximum the Hormone, so I would just enjoy hearing them. But I like how the beginning, quiet and bassy part of the song represents his anger towards Reze for using him. And then the softer section, in which the original animation featured an Angel Makima tempting Denji, was used when Reze tempted him. I found out after seeing the movie that after this section, there's new music never before heard. The original song was written with verses focused on Reze and then on the rest of part 1 of the manga, which had finished publication when the show started airing. As a result, only the TV-sized version was released previously. This new version is called the 70% Unlocked Edit, so I look forward to seeing the final 30%, hopefully in a new season. The strong use of music, and smart reuse of the budget they arguably wasted with the show, really elevated a battle that already had such great emotional weight that I, who typically gets bored doing shonen battles, was on the edge of my seat. Lastly, I want to touch on the animation and visual design a little. I really enjoyed both the subtleties and the dynamic animation on display. In particular, I really enjoyed the use of color, such as the reds highlighting Reze's true nature, and of course human blood, the blue of some devil blood contrasting with human blood, and some scenes and even still frames of artistic color usage featuring a great number of purples and greens, really evoking the manga covers. This film truly was a delight to the senses. All in all, despite flaws, I thoroughly enjoyed how this movie used a simple premise to elevate the characters, and I hope future arcs will meet my expectations and not be like the Katana Man arc from the end of the show. This sort of review is rare for me, but if you enjoyed it and are interested in niche topics as well, there will be more coming in the future.